Hi, creative friends. This is Soraya, and thank you so much for being here. So I'm going to do a part 2 to the studio log, conversing with our paintings, etc., etc. And I just wanted to explain that although I have mentioned this before in some of my other videos, but I just wanted to explain that the reason why I even started doing studio logs is because when I went to Oaxaca, and on our first night there, we all everybody that was in the art retreat, which was about 10 to 12 people, we all kind of had the same sort of, oh, I don't know what my visual language is, etc., etc. And so at some point in the retreat, which was about 7 days long, I think, Connie brought up the concept of the studio log. And prior to that, like when I have gone to museums, I have conversed with paintings in my head, you guys, not out loud. But of course, if I'm going to be standing in front of a Picasso or a Van Gogh, I'm going to be having a conversation. I'm going to be saying things I want to say, asking questions, whatever. But I had never thought to do it with my own work. And this practice has evolved over time from when I first started doing it about 10, 11 years ago. And it also changes depending on what I am working on. And I don't do it for everything. I don't. But if I feel like called to do it, then I'm going to get into my studio log. I also talk to my paintings out loud. So I do both. And one of the best things that I do is, and I mention this all the time, like when I come to a part of the painting and I just don't know what to do, I just simply ask myself, like, what should I do? Like just say, I'm like, hey, should I turn this into a sun? Should I leave this? Should I, whatever? I just ask myself the question and trust that, the answer is going to come to me eventually. But another thing that I do is that, for some particular journals, like my Healing Ancestral Trauma Art Journal, I have written different questions. And, so I will, like, these are just like some questions that I ask myself, but then depending on like a specific art journal, I will change the questioning. So all of these things are so personal, you guys. There's no right or wrong. And, some people might be like, hey, this is just not for me. And that's totally fine. Oh, and in my last video, I talked about mechanical drawings. And a lot of times, like when people draw architectural buildings, for instance, those are called mechanical drawings. So I didn't mean mechanical in like robotic. That's not what I meant. I've seen some just absolutely stunning mechanical drawings of buildings and even landscapes. So, it depends on the person and what they are inclined to want to ask, or if they even want to work this way. They may not. And maybe for a person who does like very tight mechanical drawings, this might not be a good way for them to work, or maybe it would, but they would approach it in a different way. So, this is just for you to have an idea of how I work, and maybe, just take what is going to work for you and then leave the rest. So anyways, I'm just going to go on and talk about some of the other questions that I ask myself. And now all these questions that I'm reading, I do not ask all of these questions for like every journal, every page or whatever. That's too much. But these are just like, like questions that are just good for my way of working, my symbology, just all my visual language, etc. These are lines of inquiry that help me. So one of the questions that I really love is, if someone else had painted this, what would I admire and what would I critique? And I think this is really a great question because it gets us out of the mindset of taking things personally. So if I just think, oh, I didn't even paint this, I'm totally detached from it. And I don't have like my ego involved and, oh, I want want it to, be a certain way. I want external validation, etc. It just helps me to separate myself a little bit more and to be more objective. There's a time to be subjective with your work, and there's a time to be objective. So if I ask myself that question, I'm more willing to pinpoint the things that I love, that I admire, because sometimes we might think, oh, I don't want to say anything good about my art because that might be construed as, I have a big ego or whatever. And by the same token, we might not want to critique our art because we might be like, well, that means I'm not a good artist and I don't know what I'm doing and all of those things. So when we take ourselves out of the picture, we are more willing to kind of look at a painting and say, hey, what do I really love about this painting? What do I admire? What do I want to replicate going forward? And then by the same token, what's weak in it? What doesn't work? So both of those things are really important. Another question is, where do I need to trust myself more? Is it with line? Is it with color? Is it with composition? Because sometimes we can be unsure, uncertain. And I know when I first started painting, I was very, very uncertain about color. I just had so many hangups about color, and I really didn't trust myself enough to follow my instincts on color. I took quite a few classes on color theory, mixing color, which kind of scrambled up my brain, how to mix neutrals, etc. And it's really easy to fall down the rabbit hole of, I don't know anything. And of course we can always learn. There's so much to learn, especially about color. Oh my God, color is very, very complex. But by the same token, I'm learning how to trust myself more, and not like fall into these two colors don't work together. Color theory, everything I've ever read about colors says that, you can't use all these colors together. It's garish, it's, primitive, whatever. I'm learning how to just kind of trust myself more. So I think that's another really good question to ask ourselves. And that's going to strengthen your visual language, because when we pay attention to what we love, when we act upon our instincts, that's all building up our visual language. And now we're learning to trust our visual language and to say, hey, yeah, I don't have the same color palette as Cézanne. I'm just using that as an example. I love Cézanne's color palette to the ends of the earth. But, you can say to yourself, yeah, I don't have the same color palette as Cézanne, but nor am I supposed to. I'm supposed to have my own color palette. I'm supposed to have my own perspective. This is my art. So it's just going to help you build that foundation for your visual language. Now, this is a question I really love. What is the most dangerous thing I could do here? Because sometimes we want to play it safe. We don't want to risk things. But, one of the things that got me out of that is this question, yes, because it very directly, gives me the incentive to question, like, what is the most dangerous thing I could do here? It's almost like a challenge. But the other thing is to realize that, hey, this is just a piece of paper. Like, it's paper. I can cover, especially with mixed media, I can cover it up. And actually, the more I cover it up, the more layered and textured and storied it's going to become. So it's just a piece of paper. What is the most risky, dangerous thing I could do here? Okay, well, let me see if I can do that then. So what am I afraid would ruin this piece? And I just wanted to show you guys this. So I was painting this woman, and I just, there was nothing wrong with her per se, but it just felt like too blah. Like I didn't, and it's still in the beginning stages of it. It's like my 100-day project mixed media portrait. So it's still, I don't know, 2-3 layers in, but I painted the eyes in, but it just didn't look like, it just was too, like, I don't know, it just didn't have the juice. Okay. So this line of questioning now, what is the most dangerous thing I could do? Well, I could just take the darkest color I know, which is the one I have is ink in my chalk paint, and I just blobbed it, put it all over the hair, put it over here, and I actually love it. Now I'm going to go in, I'm going to work over top of it, put the eyes in, etc. But I actually love it more like this than I did before I put the blobs in. Another thing is, where am I being too polite, too safe, too predictable. Because a lot of times, I know for me, and I'm sure a lot of us experience this, we get into like painting like one kind of way, and then it becomes too safe and predictable. It becomes too, when I say polite, it's like almost like, well, everybody always says that they love my work when I do it this way, but I don't want to do it this way anymore. I want to step out of it. I want to try something new. And, you know, I'm scared to like shake the boat, to rock the boat and, that kind of thing. But sometimes, if we want our work to grow and if we want to trust ourselves and to grow as an artist, then I think these questions are really helpful. Another question I love is, what would make this more alive? I'm always like wanting that because I want the juice. Like I just want the juice, the juicy, like energy, I don't like it when everything's too like like it's just too, yeah, it's perfect, yeah, it's beautiful, but it's just too. I don't like that. I want things that are messy and imperfect and the juice and the energy, and that's me. Now, to somebody who did a very different kind of way of working, a mechanical, very tight drawing, they would probably not ask this question, and that is totally fine. They've got to ask a question that would work with the way they work, their personality, the art they're creating, etc. Now, this one I really, really love. What would I do if I didn't show this to anyone? If I don't care if it's liked or understood or whatever. And I just want to show you this here. Now, this is from a very old journal, I do believe. I don't remember. It might not even be the first time I did this, but I made these faces that are like, as you can see, they're just patterns, I guess. There's the circle, there's the dots, but there's no facial features. And I really loved it. And I had a lot of hang-ups about painting faces that were blank or that had no facial features. It was something I had to work through. But in order to work through it, I had to, first of all, discover that I had the hang-up. Really delve into the nuts and bolts of like, okay, I have this hang up, I have these beliefs, where do these beliefs come from? And this was a very specific cultural belief for me in particular that I had to first acknowledge, get it down on paper, write it all down, really kind of examine it, really question it, really ask myself, does it serve me anymore? Blah, 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 blah. But this is one of the really good questions, because when we are not concerned about what are other people gonna think, and you don't even have to show it to anybody. Like, sure, I open up my art journals, I post stuff on Instagram, I do all these sorts of things, but there are plenty of artists who don't do that, and that's totally fine. And there are things that I paint and draw and whatever that I don't show. I might show them like 6 months from now, a year from now, whatever, but I don't show everything either. And I think this is a really good question because it forces us to kind of really delve into the nuts and bolts of, being true to ourselves and creating art that resonates with us first and foremost, that's true to our experiences. So these questions over here, and like I said, you guys, these are just my questions. You can take some of them as is, or you can modify them, or they can just they're just, like little threads, starting points, like a springboard, I guess, into questions you might want to ask yourself. Another good question is, am I finished? Or am I tired? Or am I just uninspired? Or whatever. Because a lot of times, I might think I'm so this or that or whatever, and I'm just tired. I'm just really tired. I need to go to bed. I need to put it away. I need to come back to it tomorrow morning or, next week or whatever. Another good question I like is, I need more, and then identify, do I need more color in this piece? Do I need more neutrals in this piece? Do I need more, lines? Do I need more emotion in this piece? That's a really good kind of line of questioning I like. Another one is, the problem isn't this, it's this. Sometimes I might look at a piece and I'm trying to identify why I don't like it, why it just doesn't feel right. Like, say for this, piece, to use this as an example. There was absolutely nothing wrong with this. It was absolutely like, it was a perfectly fine portrait in the making, but I just didn't like it. So, the problem isn't the drawing or the painting. The problem is it was too stilted. It was too tight for me. It was too like, there was no life in it. So that's a good, one to identify, because sometimes I may not like something, but I don't know why I don't like it. And this is just a good kind of a sentence that, I can kind of write about. This here says, I'm not done because blah, blah, blah. And this is like, sometimes, I might leave something and I might just not want to go back to it. And I can't figure out like, well, why don't like, I want to go back to it. Most of the time maybe way back in the day, I used to be concerned about this. Now I don't do that anymore. So some of these questions, I don't even use them anymore. But I know a long time ago, I used to, that used to be a concern of mine, I think. But now, like, I have art journals, I've just let it be for like 3 years, 4 years. I'm like, okay, it'll just come together when it comes together. Like, I'm not stressed out about it. So some of these questions are, from a while ago. Now for art journaling in particular, some of the questions I ask, and these will change depending on the art journal I'm working on. So one of the questions I ask is, where do I want to go? I'm sorry, not where do I want to go, but I'll ask the, okay, let me show you this, for instance. So this is a great example. So when I first started this book, for the first few pages, I was simply exploring a cross composition. And then some pages in, I realized, hey, this is about like a lot more than this. These pages are trying to tell me something. These figures are trying to go somewhere that I didn't know where they wanted to go. But me journaling about it, like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to lead me to? And I talked about how one of the figures was shaped like a coffin, and I totally noticed it immediately because I did not do it on purpose. But it just showed up on my pages, and I was like, like, where do you want to lead me to? And almost instantaneously, I came to the realization that this whole journal is about healing ancestral trauma. And that is what I mean when I say, like, I am talking to my page. So I will actually write down, where do you want to go to? And then I will, maybe sit, maybe light a candle, maybe just take a deep breath. Maybe the answer might come to me right away. Maybe it won't. I don't stress myself out about it. What's the next small truth, not the big picture? And this is something I'm learning to work on more and more. I'm learning to be in the moment, to not know what the hell I'm doing, to not think too far ahead about the finished picture, but just like little threads, oh, what is this next small truth? Okay, what is this truth? Write it down. Do the truth, do that. Oh, okay, this journal is going to be about healing ancestral trauma. Oh, okay, what is the next little small truth? And so on and so forth. And before you know it, you've got a body of work. If I follow honestly, where do we end up? Well, I'm going to use this again as an example because it's a great example. If I follow this honestly, truthfully, well, I'm going to pinpoint a lot of things like, in my culture, in my family of origin, there is misogyny, there is toxic patriarchy, there is violence against women, there is domestic violence, there is child marriages, child brides, caste system, very hierarchy based order of things, etc., etc., etc. That is what I want in my work. I do not want to make a polished version of healing ancestral trauma and just, talk about the positive things in my family or in my culture or whatever. That is not the way I work. There would be absolutely no point for me to do that. So it would be a waste of my time and energy, and it would actually hurt me. Like it would be artificial. It wouldn't be real. So I would not do that. So this is a great question that I love to ask myself. So what wants to arrive, but it isn't ready to arrive yet? That is another great question because it's that liminal space. It's that bridge. It's that, okay, I'm in this, space of, okay, something hasn't arrived yet. it's going to arrive, let me create the safe container for it to feel safe enough to arrive. I love that question. This I love. And these questions have evolved over time. They are specific to certain art journals. Like, you know, I don't think I would use that line of questioning when I'm doing my 100-day project. This is like all for learning. That healing ancestral trauma art journal is completely different. So the questions, you know, are appropriate for the different projects that I'm working on. Another one that I ask myself is there tension in this piece? Where is the tension? What is present but unseen? What does this feel like before it becomes a language? Now, this is fairly recent, a way of me working, just because I'm delving into archetypal psychology more and more. And this comes from my Healing Ancestral Trauma art journal a lot. So I hope that this gives you ideas, you guys, of how you can work, how you can deepen your art practice, how you can strengthen your visual language. It is such an amazing way to work, and I absolutely love it. So anyways, you guys, if you've watched all the way to the end, thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. I really appreciate all of your questions and comments, etc. And in my next video, I am going to work on this piece over here, and I am going to figure out, like, hey, do I want to do a still life? What do I want to do with it? But I absolutely love it just the way it is. Anyways, you guys, thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.